over the last year or so, I see that you've been exposed to a lot of things going on in the web world. What have you found most notable or most interesting from your perspective?
Yes, actually, it's an interesting question. See, I've been working in the web space for like over 10 years. And then a couple of years ago, when we have a lot of app developers, they're developing apps, check into the store, make money, and there's somebody say, web is dead, right? So it's a pretty strong statement. I was like, so I look into that, and I do feel web will never die, and I'll tell you why. Because in the past, web developers are using their skill set, like HTML, JavaScript, to develop a very interesting website. Nowadays, there's a lot of ways they actually could converting their web content into an app if they want to make some money, say. And then obviously, there are several approaches, like taking the metadata, using like Manifold.js, all those things, or using usually called PhoneGap, and now we call it Cordova, right? Sort of cross-platform way to do that. And then if you look at the difference between web and the real app, it is really, web is like pretty static and maybe not that visually appearing. There's no notification, no offline storage, right? If there's no internet, your web is kind of dead. So all those things, I think, somehow is addressed in an app. But nowadays, if you look at a web, there are a lot of going on there. For example, there are a service worker, new feature, which will actually adding all the notification, offline support into the web. So once it becomes a standard, then web developer could develop a web. I would say it's a new web, sort of evolves into a new web, so that it doesn't have to be, we talk about app development. Because if you think about it, a web versus app. A web, usually people just say, my grandparents could click a link and do something and see something. But app does involve to download it, install it, right? And for example, use this conference example. I may not want to install a Fluent conference app because I may speak at so many different conferences, but a website would be perfectly fine. If it could resolve things like offline notification, I'll be happy to just use a website. So I think this is very interesting personally. So cross-platform, the mobile development, we talk about how to migrate into a mobile web using all the new features. And the plus, web doesn't have to be boring. We have a WebGL. 3D rendering, make it more visually appearing, right? Even a couple of months ago, I don't know if you heard about Adobe. Dolby Sound, Dolby Sound. They actually make the Dolby Sound running in a browser, like a new browser like Microsoft Edge. And it's all possible, So I'm very excited about all those cool things going on.
That's great. And so is there one thing that you can really point to and say, like, this is exciting. This is what I see taking off in the future.
I think this a new web kind of approach with all the things I talked about before, and the other things I probably would say the wearable devices. The way we actually, from web developer per se, could participate. Say, for example, HoloLens is coming up, and if you look at the WebGL is used so widely in virtual reality. So all the web developers could participate into wearable devices and make really a lot of cool app out of it. That's one thing. The other thing is probably the IoT devices, because now everything's ready. We have big data, we have all the nice vendor providing all those IoT devices, and we have a very simple to use JavaScript kit or something. This is really another direction to look into. So, and with like a new protocol HTTP2, getting better with the web performance, all the pieces are putting together and really looking into a new web paradigm,
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.